So in this video I'm going to talk about my S1000RR and should you buy one? So in this video I'm going to talk about my BMW S1000RR, and if you're looking at buying one, then maybe this video will help make up your mind. So firstly, as I'm recording this, BMW have got their Generation 4 version of the RR out, and I didn't want to go for the Generation 4, and there's a number of reasons for that. And I think with the Generation 3, which is what this is, I kind of feel from looking at the reviews and riding this that this is the perfect all-round motorcycle, and I'm going to go into the reasons why. And firstly, I think that if you I'm going to use an example as the GSX-R 1000 K5, and if you know anything about that bike, you know that the K5 Gixxer is a very special bike. The K6 version and so on has got a lot of restrictions with regards to, I think it's the Euro 3 or 4 that came into play, and basically what that means is there's less power throughout the rest of the Gixxers, and the K5 is very special and they hold their money quite significantly. And I don't know, I could be completely wrong to say this, but I think that this bike, this Generation 3, might be kind of the same sort of way that the Gixxer K5 was going, and I could be completely wrong with that, like most things in life. But you know, the K5, for argument's sake, is very sought after, and while BMW are trying to push the bar, and I can understand that people want LED headlights and rocket launchers on the front of it and machine guns and all that sort of shit, you know, kind of the same old expression says, if it's not broken, then don't fix it. And I haven't actually ridden the new Generation 4 version of the RR, but I don't know if I want to be honest, and that's kind of the reason why I bought this, because when I jumped on this bike, I just felt right at home, and it does everything so well, and it's so comfortable, and I've spent the best part of about, I don't know, 1,200, 1,300 miles with this bike so far. I've had it for near enough 2 weeks, and I can safely say that I can pretty much do anything on this bike. I've been on this bike, you know, from sort of 9 o'clock in the morning up until sort of, 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. So work out how many hours that is. But during that period of time, I didn't feel as though that I was on a sports bike, but I did. And I know that that makes absolutely no sense at all. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that this bike can pretty much do everything. So I come from the sports bikes. All I've ever ridden is sports bikes and hyper nakeds, and going back maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I left the sports bikes behind and started to go into the hyper nakeds. My first one was a Triumph Speed Triple, because I was bored of feeling as though I was on a torture table and the weight on your wrists and all that sort of shit. I was just bored of it, and you know, 90% of the time, 80% of the time, I was just riding on the road. So it didn't make sense to have a sports bike. And I was kind of at an age where I didn't need to look cool anymore. And yeah, I flicked over to the hyper nakeds. Now forward to this little puppy, and riding this, that's one thing with this bike that has just blown me away, is how comfortable it is. For a 200 horsepower bike, it's just like, it's so comfortable, and that's one of the things that has really taken me back with this bike. And I know that I can go away for the weekend, I can commute on this bike, I know that I can go long distances, be out on it all day, and not feel as though that I've been on a sports bike. And it's like, I don't know how to put that into context really, but you know, that's one of the main benefits with this bike, and mainly why I actually bought it. So chances are, if you're probably watching this video, you've probably watched about 1,000 videos on this bike already. And you know, the Generation 3's got like the blipper, quick shifter, cruise control, wheelie control. You can adjust the suspension electronically. It's got radars. It's got pretty much everything. ABS. It's absolutely fully loaded. Heated grips. I mean, it's got everything that you actually want. One thing I would say as well, which is a benefit, is the electronic suspension. So when you're going over like shitty roads, and in the UK we do have shitty roads, particularly in and around Essex, which is just outside London. This just eats up the bumps in the road, and kind of like, you know, when you see a big pothole in the road or a couple of potholes or whatever, and you kind of brace yourself for, oh shit, this is going to hurt kind of moment. This just soaks it up. And because of the problems I had buying this motorcycle from BMW, it wasn't as very smooth as one might hope. They lent me their 1250 RS, and that thing is super comfortable. It's their sports tourer. I'll put a picture of it on the screen now. And with that, I mean, that thing just soaked up bumps of the road. It really did. The suspension on that was just absolutely mind-boggling. And this is kind of the same. It's not like unworldly different. It does still, you know, it's a sports bike at the end of the day, and there is a little bit of weight on your wrist. But the beauty is when you're in cruise control, when you're in those 30 to 40 mile an hour zones, even 50, you flick on the cruise control, and it's just so comfy. It's just so comfortable. And when you do actually hit those bumps, there's literally zero weight on your wrists. So the point I'm trying to make, which I hope I have, is that this bike is so comfortable, and that's why you're looking at it at the moment on my channel. That was one of the reasons I got it. Now, on the flip side of that, from a performance point of view, it's a 200 horsepower bike, particularly with that pipe. I haven't got it on a dyno, so I wouldn't actually know, but you know, they come out of factory. I think it's 199 brake horsepower at 13 grand, I think it is, at 13,000 RPMs. Don't hold me to that, I could be wrong. But this bike does not hold about. It does not hang about, that's what I mean. It's a quick bike. The handling of the thing is exactly what you expect. It's like wizardry. I've never been able to ride a bike so quick as I can with this, and I've had my fair share of track days, all that sort of stuff, knee down, blah blah blah, and this complements my riding perfectly. One thing I don't see anyone talking about this bike, which all of the videos I've watched, you don't need to be going, let's go back a step. When I do watch videos on YouTube, so a lot of them are talking about, you know, you're going to lose your license, it becomes a disposable object and all that sort of stuff. And while that is true, I think it's dependent on the kind of person, the type of person that you are riding this bike. Because for me, I don't need to be going 150 mile an hour to enjoy this bike. On the contrary, in and around the twisties, sort of at like, you know, fast speeds, this bike lights me up. It's so good in the corners. It's so smooth. There's no jerky throttle or anything like that. And when you're kind of in the lanes, particularly around here, it's just, oh God, it just makes me smile and giggle. And the engineering that's gone into this bike is just next to none. And I don't see anybody talking about that side of it. Like, you don't need to be going like 100 miles an hour plus to enjoy this bike. So even from like traffic lights, and when you're picking up speed from like 0 to like 30 or 40, it's just such a joy. And when you come onto the motorway as well, and you want to sort of pick up speed, it's just so smooth. Like, oh God, it's so good. And again, I don't know if this is going to be kind of a classic bike for BMW, like as I mentioned earlier, like with a K5, you know, the Gixxers, they're kind of a collectible bike, if you like, and anybody who knows their sports bike knows how special that is. And while the new RR, the Generation 4, is an improvement on this, I know it's lighter, it's got more grunt at the lower end and all that sort of stuff. I've been watching some reviews of people that own it, and there's been sort of, how can I put it, kind of like, I've heard some things like, you know, the cruise control, and somebody's correct me on that, and they're saying it's sort of a USA thing compared to a European thing. The power at second gear, there's a couple of nannies on it that stop it wheeling and all that sort of stuff. And again, someone's corrected me on this channel, maybe it's you, sir, who's watching this at the moment, I don't know. But, you know, kind of like, as I said previously, if it's not broken, why fix it? So, obviously, I'm still at that honeymoon period with this bike, but I've got a lot out of my system with regards to just doing stupid speeds, being ridiculous, going on some roads that I'm very familiar with, that I've been riding on for like 10 plus, 20 plus years maybe. So, it's safe to say that I kind of know this bike now, inside out, and I know its behaviour. Haven't got it on a track yet, which I plan to do as soon as possible, just for financial reasons. I've absolutely done my beans since buying this bike. Like with a pipe, that for argument's sake was £675. Other bits and pieces on it, insurance. This bike has cost me a pretty penny, but I must say it's worth every single penny. So next month I'm going to try and get her on a track, if not the following month, which will be in August. But I think, I don't know, that's where as well I'm going to kind of maybe have a different opinion of this bike, because yeah, it's a track and not a road. So it's a possibility that you've probably watched so many videos on this that I'm not going to be telling you stuff that you already know. But you know, just from my point of view with it, I've had my fair share of motorbikes. One thing as well with this bike is it has serious presence. Like, I mean, personally, I'm not intimidated by it. There's not many bikes I am intimidated by. I don't know if that sounds a little bit arrogant, but you know, because of all the electronics and stuff, it's just so easy to ride. Unlike, say, something like a Ducati, which, I mean, the newer ones now, the V4s are supposedly to be a little bit more manageable, but this is kind of just perfect. It's so easy to ride. That's one other thing, and it's got some serious presence, and it draws attraction wherever you go, particularly when I'm like on the road. Like, I've had a number of occasions where I'll have people wind down their window when I'm at a set of traffic lights, and they just tell me that this is their dream bike, and they'd just be gushing over it. And when I'm at bike sort of meets, or like I'm going out for a cup of tea and a ride, I'll just have people coming up to me talking about this bike, and it just draws so much attention, and it's got so much respect, and it's kind of like a poster bike for a lot of people that not only ride two wheels, but that drive four wheels. So it's got some serious respect. So I'm going to stop waffling and go for a little ride on these roads. And it's only just recently that I've been able to string a sentence together about this bike, because I've got a lot of it out of my system. It's the best bike I've ever had so far in my life. And I've been riding, how long have I been riding? Well, I'm old. I'm an old man. I'm looking at 40 years of age, and I've been riding bikes since I was at school. Since I was 12, I had my first motorbike, which was a pedal and pooch, and I paid £50 for it from my mate Nick Webb, and I'll put a picture of it on the screen now so you can have a look. But yeah, this is the best bike that I've ever had in my life. And I mean, again, I don't know how much more they can do with it, how much more they can do with the electronics and stuff, and suspension and all that sort of good stuff, but for me, like, I can just see myself having this bike for such a long time. And that's another thing with it as well, like the looks. I love the looks. I'm really in love with the looks. I kind of like the asymmetrical kind of the headlights on the front. That really works for me. It doesn't for a lot of people, but you know, it's kind of like Marmite, I guess. You either love it or you hate it. That's another thing as well that not a lot of people I see talking about. A lot of the sports bikes don't have fuel gauges on them, which for me, I just don't understand, particularly even with the TFT displays that are out now. Like, why not put a fuel gauge on the motorbike when you know it's going to be living on the road? At the end of the day, if a motorbike has wing mirrors and headlights on it, put a fuel gauge on it. So again, another good thing with this bike on that subject is it has a range of miles left in the tank, which is super useful, which gives me confidence to go touring on it, which is what I want to do. And look, I don't understand again why motorcycle manufacturers don't put a fuel gauge on a motorcycle. And kind of like this as well is another thing that I've maybe mentioned in other videos with this bike. I'm doing 30 mile an hour in 4th gear, cruise control on, no weight on my wrists, legs are relatively comfortable in the sense of position, they're not too high, hello mate, and like it's just so well mannered. It's like, this is a 200 horsepower plus, with that slip-on motorcycle, and I'm just cruising around in a little village, 30 mile an hour, 4th gear, and yeah, she's just so well mannered. So I guess this is a good spot to do a little closing video. So yeah, overall thoughts and opinion of the bike. I've kind of got past that gushing period. That's a lie, I haven't got past the gushing period. I'm still absolutely in love with this bike and infatuated with it. But I've kind of got to a point where I can actually speak now, and I don't feel like I need to exploit the bike. I understand how it handles, I understand the power, where it is, what gear to be in, all that sort of good stuff. And I kind of wanted to give you my 2 cents about this bike. But with that said, I'm interested to hear from you. Like, are you thinking of buying one? Have you got one already? You know, put some comments in the comment section below. If you like this content as well, please consider just to give it a little thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it, because then I would make more videos to keep you guys entertained at home. But yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Hasta luego.
Again.